Welcome everyone to WPL's cooking class Summer Panzanella with Chef Kelsey. Chef Kelsey is a Lowell-based chef and educator with a focus on eating with the seasons and supporting her local community through private cooking classes and dinner parties. She's also the farm chef at Right Lock Farm in Winchester, where she runs a variety of educational programming for people of all ages and creates delicious farm-to-table food experiences. You can learn more about her on her website, Facebook, and Instagram pages, and those links are on the recipes handout. Okay.
Thank you for the lovely introduction. Hello, everybody. My name is Chef Kelsey, and I am very excited to be here with you today because though it is spring, it definitely feels like summer. So it's kind of a perfect day to learn to make some panzanella salad. But before we do, I know you just got a little introduction about me, but I'm a private chef and educator based in Lowell. And then I also run the kitchen at Right Lock Farm. We're a small nonprofit farm, and it's pretty much a dream job where I get to do farm to table cooking classes and dinners and work with other educators. And so it's really lovely. And I invite all of you guys to come visit me there. Yeah, and with that, I think we're just going to get started. So today we are making panzanella salad, which is an Italian salad, and it comes from the Latin word pan, meaning bread, and then zella, which is basket, which is what it was traditionally served in. And it's actually a peasant dish. So it originated as a dish that the peasants would use. They would have leftover bread that was kind of going stale, and so they would create a salad with whatever vegetables and things like that they had laying around and a dressing, and then they would toss it all together and that would be it. So this is my take on one. I actually just realized I forgot an ingredient, so I'm going to put it right there because I don't want to forget my seasoning. And I think with that, I'll just kind of start teaching. So this is my take on a panzanella salad. I think it's incredible because it's a super versatile dish. So you can really do anything with it. Mine starts with a base of tomatoes. So I've got 2 pounds of cherry tomatoes here. The way that I'm going to kind of do this salad for me today is I'm kind of using it as like a lunch prep. Oh, and I forgot. If you guys have any questions or comments, please feel free to put them in the chat. Dot's going to read them to me so I can answer any of your questions and we'll be good to go. So with that being said, let's get cooking. So I've got my grape tomatoes here. And what I'm going to do is just super simply, I'm slicing them in half. I'm going to salt them, and that salt is going to release the juices. So I've got it in this little colander here. And those juices are going to pool down here. I'm going to use that in my salad dressing. So it's really like nothing's going to waste here. So I'm using a paring knife, and I'll show you guys how to work with a chef's knife in a little bit. But just to start with the paring knife, what you do is you just kind of hold it up close. And if you see, most knives actually kind of have a place right here for your thumb to naturally rest. And then you're going to put your pointer finger on top. And this just helps you have some really good control over your knife. I'm using a tiny little serrated one because it's easier for my tomatoes. And so all I'm doing is I just pinch it, little pinch, and slice. And that's literally it. I actually pre-started slicing my tomatoes because I thought they don't need to sit there for 5 minutes and watch me slice 2 pounds of tomatoes. I could get pretty boring pretty quickly. So I got a head start on it. But I really love this salad, and I love it too because summer is right around the corner. And I don't think that there is anything better than like vine ripe cherry tomatoes that you pick and eat. They're so good. And this salad is perfect because if you do what I'm doing today, which is going to be making all of my things for the salad, the dressing, and chopping all my vegetables. And then I'm actually only going to plate a serving for myself. I'm not going to do all of it. And it's perfect because it's a really good meal prep solution. So if you're coming into the summer and trying to think of ways where you could have a really yummy light lunch, but it's technically a salad, but it has bread in it. So it's like the best kind of salad. This is a really good kind of choice for you. So I'm getting pretty full. I'm not sure I can fit all of my tomatoes, which is okay. Do a couple more. I also really like the colorful tomatoes. I like the color in this salad. That's another one of my favorite things about the summer is that there's actually such a variety of color in the produce so that you could have like different types of cucumbers or peppers or things like that. So you really have like a rainbow. So here are my tomatoes, all diced in half, and I'm just going to give them some salt. So I'm adding about a teaspoon. And then this is like classic me, where I put something in something that's too small. So I'm going to fix that by putting it in my bowl, tossing it together so those juices can start to come out of my tomatoes. And then I'm gonna put it right here. On it goes. And it's just gonna drip. We can already see it starting to drip, which is great. And that's it. That's the first step to panzanella salad. It's pretty easy. All right, so our tomatoes are getting ready. Done with this knife. Our tomatoes are ready. So now we're going to talk about the bread. So like I said earlier, panzanella salad was a peasant dish, and they would use the stale bread to turn it into something that they could eat and that was like nourishing and filling and really yummy. So I'm not using stale bread. I'm going to make croutons. And what I have is just a simple baguette. I've got olive oil. I've got salt and pepper. And then I like to add cumin because I think that the little bit of smokiness that you get from the cumin really adds another layer of flavor to your salad. And that's kind of what cooking is all about, right? Layering different flavors that kind of all complement each other. So we're going to cut our baguette into little croutons. I tend to do like pretty decent size ones. I think the last time I did a class here, we made a Caesar salad and I made the croutons just so large because I like large croutons. I don't know why, but I'm going to try to make them more manageable. So we're going to use a chef's knife, and I'll rinse and repeat kind of how to do it, but I'm going to show you guys how to hold a chef's knife. So you take your thumb and your pointer finger and you're going to pinch the blade right here. And then you're going to wrap the rest of your hand around just like this. So you might think like, whew, kind of choked up on that blade, Kelsey, but it's actually what you want. So think of the knife as an extension of your hand. So a couple things, if we're holding it back here, we're not in complete control of our knife and it's not really moving fluidly with us. It takes more work to work it. So I'm using my knife, and they are also designed like very comfortably to have a place for your thumb and your finger to rest. So I'm going to hold it here. And that way, when I move my knife, it's moving with my arm. It's really fluid and it doesn't take as much work. The other thing about a knife is that straight up and down is not great. It's not a good noise. And the reason for that is you're only using the one part of your blade, which means this part's going to go dull and the rest of your knife will stay sharp. So to kind of make sure that your knife stays sharper, longer, and stay consistently sharp, actually I'm going to do a rocking motion. So down in this way, that also helps with the actual cutting process because you're not forcing as much. You're going with the flow of your knife. Again, it's an extension of your arm. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it into thirds, I think. And this is super simple. It's nothing fancy. You could use any bread that you have. Like if you have leftover sourdough or other types of things, you can use that. What I like to do is if I go too overboard on my bread and I have a lot left over and I don't need that many croutons, I'll actually cut all my cubes and I put it in a Ziploc bag and then I freeze it. So that way, once I have a full bag, I'm like, oh, cool, I can make panzanella salad, with my baguette that I didn't finish or my sourdough I didn't finish, and just kind of pull it all together. So again, we reduce our waste and it also makes our lives easier. So when we want croutons, they're ready. So now that I've got it cut, I'm going to stand it up right here. I'm just going to pinch between my fingers and slice downward. So I'm going to do that on all three. I'm not using a bread knife. You can if you want. I don't think baguettes need it for this because it's not like a precise small cut that I'm doing. So now that I've got them cut in half, I'm just going to do another cut in half. And I'm just going to give it a bite-sized dice. I'm going to try to make them all about the same size. So just like that. The really cool thing about making your own croutons as well, and this is literally what we're doing, we're just making croutons, is you can flavor it any way you want. So say that I was making this for a salad, instead of cumin, I might do paprika and like if I wanted a little hot cayenne pepper, or if you had other spices you really enjoyed, you could do garlic powder or parsley, oregano, kind of whatever floats your boat. think of it as a blank canvas for flavor. All right. Super simple, super easy. And I'm just throwing it on a sheet pan. I'm not putting it in a bowl. I'm not doing anything else. It's a pretty unmessy thing. If I wasn't demoing it for you guys, I wouldn't even have bothered. I poured my oil and I poured my spices. I wouldn't have done that. I would have just literally done everything on the sheet pan and had very little dishes to do. But since we're doing it for you guys, I thought I'd show you. I cook all the time, but I hate doing dishes. So I'm always thinking of ways to reduce my amount of dishes. All right. So all of our croutons are on here. I'm going to add salt and pepper. And then I forgot to measure my cumin, but I'm going to add about a tablespoon of cumin. Super smoky, super yummy. One of my favorite spices. And then I've got a little over a quarter cup of olive oil. I always use olive oil. Oh, sorry. I like realized that my braid is like hanging right over the microphone. I'm so sorry. I'm going to switch my mic. So pardon any disturbance. There we go. All right, we're better. So I always use olive oil with my croutons because olive oil has just such a really nice flavor. And when I use olive oil, I only buy the extra virgin, which means that it's not like heated, right? So it just has a really nice oil flavor. I'm lucky to live in Lowell where we have a Greek pantry that has imported olive oil from Greece and they like fill the bottles right there for you. So it's kind of my jam. All right, so that's it. The croutons are done. I just used my hands. I tossed it together. I'm making a single sheet. I'm going to put it in the oven for 10 to 12 minutes. We're just looking to kind of start to dry them out. We don't want them super dark and crispy. Hey, Google, set a timer for 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
Awesome. So our tomatoes are juicing away. Actually, I'm going to show you guys. If you look, we already have all that juice in there. So that's going to be part of our salad dressing. And it's great too, because what it does is it like the juiciness and that extra moisture from the tomato, instead of taking it and it making our salad soggy, we're using it to our advantage and putting it in our actual salad dressing. So it's great. So our croutons are cooking, our tomatoes are getting juicy for us. The next thing we're going to do is make some pickled red onions, which is one of my all-time favorite things. It's also super simple. So we're doing a quick pickle, which means that we don't have to do the whole boiling in the pot and the pressure and all of that stuff. It's just a really quick fridge pickle, no fuss, super simple. So what I'm going to do first is we're going to talk about our pickling liquid. So just in here, I have plain white vinegar, and it's literally like a 1-1-1-1 ratio. So like how easy is that? So it's 1 cup of vinegar, 1 tablespoon sugar, 1 tablespoon salt, 1 teaspoon peppercorns. That's it. So I have my vinegar, I have my salt, sugar, and peppercorns. They're going in here. And then I have my jar where I'm going to put my onions. And I also include 2 cloves of garlic. Not necessary if you don't want to do it. I'm just obsessed with garlic, so I tend to put it in everything. So I'm just giving it a quick swirl to kind of start to melt that sugar and that salt. You can use a spoon if you like, but again, I don't want the dish. So I'm just going to swirl it because it's easier. And then I'm going to put it on high to bring it up to a boil. So while that's heating, we are going to get our onion ready. This is like one of my favorite things to talk about, is to how not cry when cutting an onion. This is a little, I don't want to say it's like a little bit of a cheat because we're not really cutting the onion fully. We're using a mandolin. But if you were to cut it at home, I'll show you how you can do that at home if you don't have the mandolin. And then I'll show you guys an easy way to dice an onion using a shallot later on. So this is our onion, and there are 2 parts to the onion. There's the root, and this is the end that goes underground. And then this is the head or the bulb, which sticks up. So what you want to do is you always want to leave that root end attached. There's 2 reasons for that. One, leaving that root attached means that your onion, because it's layers, isn't peeling all over the place. So it's a lot easier to cut and kind of keep contained. The other reason is that onions have gases inside of them. And these gases, I just realized I forgot something, that's fine. These gases, when released, they make you cry. So to keep those gases in and to help prevent crying, you actually want to keep the root end on. So just give me 1 second to get a little bowl. I forgot my special bowl. So this is my thank you for coming bowl. I always have one with me when I'm cooking, and it's my scrap bowl. If you compost, it's your compost bowl. If you don't, it's your trash bowl. But essentially the whole idea is that you have a space where you're prepping and cooking, where your scraps are going in, so they're not crowding your workspace, because having a clean workspace makes things so much smoother. So we're gonna hold our knife the proper way. Oh, and I'm gonna show you something else. When I hold my chef's knife, if you guys look, I'm not putting my finger out like I did with my paring knife. And if you look, if I have my finger out, I actually hit my wrist, versus when I'm pinched, I have a full range of motion. So it goes into that whole thought again of having full control of your knife. All right. So we're going to give it a little haircut, lay it flat, because flat things don't roll, round things roll, so it makes it easier. And then I just go directly between the roots and cut. So now I have my 2 halves of my onion. It's flat, which makes it easier to cut, and it's connected to the roots. So we're going to put it right there. Okay. So if you didn't have a mandolin, what you would do is, maybe I should just show you guys how to do it without a mandolin. No, I already got it out. I'm going to use it. So what you guys are going to do is, if you look on the onion, there are these lines. So you would just, you're going to follow those lines and you're going to cut. And I'll demo this with the shallot. And so you're just going to cut thin strips with those lines, leaving it connected at that root end. And then once they're all cut, you cut off that root and you have sliced onion, easy peasy. And of course, the other way too is if you wanted to go just like this, it's all connected, so it's easy. I'm going to use my mandolin, because I love even thin strips of onion. So I have a hand guard because mandolins are scary. And all that I'm going to do is I put it on the lowest one and then pushing down, moving it back and forth. I'm going to take that part off. There we go. Just like that. Mandolins are great. I use a lot of onion, so it's really good for me to be able to easily slice it, especially like making French onion soup or something, or a massive batch of pickled red onion. So slice super thin, really easy. Just going to go right in here. The other nice thing about a mandolin is that it makes everything even, but it also takes very little time. I see I have some like extra onion here that didn't go through, so I'm just going to really quickly. And if you guys watched how I did that, I actually didn't lift my knife off the cutting board at all. I was just moving it along. Ooh, like once it gets cut off the root end though, the gases start coming. It's like, I'm not gonna cry. Everything is fine. All right, so I'm gonna do my other half. My liquid is getting ready to boil. I'll cut the rest. Traditionally, when I do a mandolin, I don't cut it in half. I didn't think about that when I was like, oh, I'll demo like the whole thing and show them what they can do. Then I was like, oh, it's easier to cut an onion on a mandolin if it's whole. So that's all right. Really quickly, get the rest. There we go. All right, so you just want to make sure your jar or whatever container you're storing it in is one like clean. So I technically would do something that I would clean. You want it to be sanitized too. So sometimes I'll take it like directly out of the washer or something like that. And then you just want to make sure it's big enough for all your stuff. So this is plenty big. My onions are in. My solution is boiling. So we're just going to pour it. And that's it. That's literally it. That's how you make pickled red onion. So it's going to sit for 10-15 minutes. You want it to come down to about room temperature before you put it in the refrigerator. But once you make it, it's good in the fridge for 10 days, no problem. And I love putting these on everything. So I'll do breakfast sandwiches, salads, wraps, you name it, I'll kind of put them on there. Super good on tacos. So I'm just gonna let this hang out back there and pickle. We'll check on it later. And what you guys are gonna see is it's gonna get like really pink and pretty because that hot liquid is seeping out that natural pink color of the onions. All right. So let's see, we're just moving along. This is a super easy salad. Doesn't take a ton of work. Our pickled red onions are done. Our tomatoes are ready. Our croutons are almost done cooking. I think that's one of the things about cooking too that might seem difficult is sometimes if you're making something and it seems like there are a lot of different elements, it can be like a little bit overwhelming. But when you think about it, pickled red onions, like taking the time to make that, that's something you can use over and over and over again, you know, and salad dressing over and over again. So kind of like the little things, they do add up, but it makes the experience so much better. So those still look good. Happy with that. So let's make a salad dressing. All right. So this salad dressing, like I said, we're going to use the tomato juice for it. And then it's really simple. It's just a vinaigrette. I like to use champagne vinegar because it just feels fancy, but it also tastes really good. So you could also use something like a red vinegar or apple cider, something like that. But for this, I just really love the champagne. I think it's light. I think it's a little bit aromatic. So it's an enjoyable flavor. And then I have my olive oil. So I don't buy salad dressing because it's so easy to make. And I think the other thing about it too is that if you go to the grocery store and you're looking at a salad dressing, there's a lot of things in there that you might not even really know what they are. And it's supposed to be something simple, like it's a dressing for your salad. So I think it's really easy just to make it on your own. And I always do it in the jar that I'm going to store it in the fridge in, because again, I hate doing dishes. So it's just thinking of those little ways, like what are things that I can do to make my life easier? And obviously if we're going to have to take, timer. Hey, Google, stop. I'll finish my thought. If we're going to make our salad dressing and have to whisk it and do all those things, instead of dirtying a bowl and a whisk and then having to put it in something to store it in, just put it in a jar with the top. And that way everything goes in your jar and then you shake it up and then you have a dressing. It's super easy to emulsify. And then the other thing about it too, is you can store it in the fridge. And when you make a homemade dressing, it separates. After time, your oil and your vinegars, things like that, they do separate, but all you have to do is shake your jar a couple times again and you're good to go. So before we jump in there, let's check on our croutons. So they're looking really nice. We're not looking for like a super dark color. They're a little bit soft. I'm going to give it like 2 more minutes. Hey, Google, set a timer for 2 minutes. It's kind of funny to think about cooking croutons and crisping up the bread only to make it mushy with salad dressing. But it really does, like taking the time to make those croutons and dry it out allows it to soak up the yummy flavor from the dressing we're about to make. And so that makes it really, really yummy, and it just absorbs everything that much better. Plus it has those flavors like the olive oil and the cumin, and, you know, salt, which makes food amazing. So you're good to go. All right, so in my jar, I have my olive oil. And then right here, I have my champagne vinegar. So I'm gonna pour that in there. It has Dijon mustard in it. I love getting the squeeze jars because I don't have to use a spoon. Again, dishes. So it's about 1.5 teaspoons. There we go. Oh, geez. 1 sec. All right, so we've got my Dijon mustard, and then we're gonna juice a lemon, we're gonna cut up some garlic, and we're gonna cut up some shallots. What brand of Dijon? That would be Wegmans brand, so super fancy. Grey Poupon is always a really great choice for Dijon mustard, but especially for something like a salad dressing, I think using like a store brand is totally fine. So yeah, I use Wegmans. What is that? I love Wegmans too. I'm really lucky. There's one by the farm. So whatever I'm not able to source from the farm, I am sourcing at Wegmans essentially. So obviously I try to get everything as farm to table as possible and as locally sourced as possible, but I'm not locally sourcing Dijon mustard, you know? All right, what am I looking for? My juicer. I have the best little tip for juicing citrus, so I'm pretty pumped. So one of my favorite things about cooking, oh, the timer. Hey, Google, stop. There we go. Perfect. So these are done. So I'm touching them. They feel crispy. They're still a little soft. That's fine. As they cool, they're going to dry out the rest of the way. And then we'll pump them with flavor with that salad dressing. But as I was saying, one of my favorite things about cooking with people is that you're constantly learning from others. Like a lot of my knowledge is shared knowledge that I learned while cooking with friends or family or, you know, anyone really. Although like when you're cooking, everyone's your friend, right? So my partner is Dominican, and in South American culture, they use a lot of citrus. He also used to make the lemonade at Yankee Stadium. So he's juiced a lot of lemons. And we were cooking together a few months ago and we had citrus. And I'm sitting there juicing everything. He's like, "What are you doing? You didn't put the X in it." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And for him and in his culture, it was common knowledge that if you cut a shallow X after you cut it in half into your citrus, it juices better. So let me demonstrate. Always give it a nice little roll to help it loosen up. And then I'm just going to cut it in half. And then what you do is you cut a very shallow X. So look, see, super shallow, nothing deep, just a tiny little X. And the reason for this, it's like genius, right? When you're juicing your citrus, your peel kind of curls in on itself. So instead of curling in, it actually blossoms and flowers out. So that means that you're able to get a lot more of the juice. So being from a Dominican culture, this is something that they would do all the time. All the other guys that made the lemonade knew to do it. And he couldn't believe I didn't know. And I was like, "Listen, I am Pennsylvania Dutch. We do not use citrus." Just wasn't a thing in my family growing up. Well, traditionally, right? But cooking with people from other cultures, you learn from them what their things are that they pass down. So I just love it. I think it's so cool. And he was pumped to teach me something. So that's not bad, right? I'm actually gonna, before I juice that, finish prepping my lemons. So I have 2 lemons, 2 super juicy lemons actually, which is very exciting. I love citrus and I tend to do my citrus kind of seasonally. In the winter, it's oranges and grapefruit and things like that. In the summer, it's lemons and limes. And I kind of flow on that cycle. I don't know if that's normal. All right, so I'm gonna put it in my little lemon juicer and directly in it goes. All the juice. See, like it's coming a little, but I think it's because it's just tight in there, but so much juice out. All right, and this. 2. All right. So when I make salad dressings, I tend to, my salad dressings always have shallots in it, kind of without fail. I think shallots are just perfect in a dressing. And then the other thing is my ratio of like oil to vinegar or oil to acid, I guess I should say, is about 1-to-1. So about 1 cup or whatever. I try to make it even. So that way it's kind of a nice balance. And then always whenever I make my dressings, after I finish them, you taste them because sometimes it might need more acid. Sometimes it might need more oil, more salt, more mustard. You never know. I'm gonna let that keep dripping and just finish up while I do the rest of the stuff that's gonna go in the dressing. So we're gonna chop some garlic and we're gonna chop some shallots. This is a super shallot and garlic heavy dressing. But the reason for that is it's not going on light lettuce. It's not going to be part of just a regular salad. It's going on bread. Bread is really hearty. It can stand up to a lot of flavor. So we're going to give it some flavor. So we're going to start by chopping our garlic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to crush it and then I'm going to chop it. So we're going to crush it because that helps peel the skin off of it. And it also makes it so that it flattens it. So it's easier to cut. And it starts to kind of release those natural juices. All right. So I do one at a time, sharp end of the blade, always away from you. Put it down and smush. So I'm just going to do that with each one. There we go. Thank you for coming. I never buy the already chopped garlic at the store because it has just a lot of stuff in it that I don't want to eat. But I also understand that sometimes chopping garlic is super annoying. So one of my tips for that is you can buy the already peeled garlic, which saves a lot of time. So I'll buy that and then I'll put a bunch of garlic in a food processor and I'll pulse it until it's all chopped up relatively fine. I'll put it in a jar and cover that with olive oil. And then I have chopped garlic in my fridge whenever I need it. And it's easily good for a week or two. So that's a way that you can kind of take some of that prep of chopping garlic and cut down on it. All right, so I'm gonna give it just a rough chop just to get it started. There we go. And then I like to call this move the protractor. I don't know if you guys remember the protractor in school where you'd like put it down and like trace things. But essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my knife down and I'm going to have it be at a point and I'm going to move around from that point so that I can chop this really fine. So I keep my hand on it and I just go right like that. Scrape it together. Go. Excellent. So that's going to go right in my jar. Oh no, it dropped some. All right, so that's the garlic. And then the only other thing besides the juice, salt, and pepper is we're going to do our shallots. So here I'm going to show you guys how to dice a shallot really quickly. And that is also relevant for dicing an onion. All right. So just like the onion, we have the bulb that sticks out. We have our root end. Cut the head off. There we go. And then we're going to go down the middle. And then we're just going to peel that first layer. Go. So when I'm doing something like this and say I'm cutting like multiple onions or shallots or whatever, I like to get everything prepped and along the same line. So I'm doing like the same step for all of them at the same time because it's faster and more efficient. So I am peeling all of them, getting them all ready. All right. And then just like I was talking about on the red onion, but this time we're going to actually see it. We have these natural lines and these lines are our guides. So if you want, because it's a shallot and it's small, you can use a paring knife. You can also just use a chef's knife. So I'm going to start at the center and I'm going to go and follow the lines one way, the other way. It's hard because it's so tiny, but I'll show you guys. So if you look, I've got these little slices here, but it's still connected, right? Still connected. So it's all together, but I have my slices in there. So I'm going to do that for all of them. Again, you want to leave like, I don't know, 1/4 to 1/2 inch away from the root end, just to kind of hold it all together. I'm just going around one side, around the other side. Some people will tell you that after that, you want to cut like halfway through the center. I think it's a pretty dangerous cut, just because I imagine people could go too far and slice their hand if you're not being careful. And I just also think it's not necessary. So I never really do it. They say it gives you a finer chop. I think that if you just cut it kind of small, you're all right. But if you want to do it that way, you totally can. So now what we're going to do is we're going to slice them. First, I'm going to take a sip of my drink though. All right. So what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to do that rocking motion, right? So I'm holding my knife like this. We're going to do that rocking motion. Fingers, always bear claw them. You don't want to lose any fingertips. The other thing is when you're cutting, try to take your knife and hold it a little bit like that. Do you guys see how I kind of have like a tiny little angle in? And that ways, if it slips, it's just the top of your knife hitting the knuckle. It's not the bottom of the knife hitting anything. So if you hold it just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit, it just another layer of protection. Try it out. If it works for you, great. So we're just gonna, you guys see my knife is not even leaving the cutting board. Shallots are so tiny. I'll flip it over just like that. And then look at that, super quick. You have your chopped shallots. So we're gonna do that with all of them. Oh, slippery at the top. Sorry. There we go. All right, so we have a big old pile of shallots. This is a shallot happy one. I'm gonna give it just a little bit more. There we go, perfect. So now we're gonna get that in our salad dressing. So good, this is my first time making panzanella this year, so pretty excited. And today is a perfect day for it. There we go. I guess that the one downside of making it in your jar is that it's a little more precarious to get things inside because it's small, but if we can handle that, there we go. All right, and then the only thing missing now is that juice. I'm just gonna pour that in. Put my tomatoes to the side. All right, and we're gonna add some salt and pepper. So about a tablespoon of salt. I'm sorry, a teaspoon, and then my pepper. There we go. We're gonna put our top on and salad dressing. So easy. All right. It smells nice too. We're gonna give it a taste. I think it needs a little bit more salt. I'd actually like to take this moment to talk about salt because it's one of my favorite topics. So I use Diamond Kosher salt, which is the least salty of all of the salts. And so in my recipes, I'll cook, I'll add the salt, but I'll often find myself tasting it and then adding more salt. So the type of salt you use in your kitchen is really, really important. I don't know if you guys just saw me spill pepper everywhere. So but the type of salt that you use in your kitchen is really important just to understand purely from a cooking perspective. So Diamond Kosher and Morton Kosher are both fine crystal kosher salt, right? Morton is 2 times as salty as Diamond Kosher. So that's something where your salt might be a really salty salt. And if it is, you learn how to cook with that salt, right? Or if you have a salt that's not as salty, you might find yourself needing more. So it's important when you're cooking to kind of understand that. What makes it more salty? I have no idea. I literally have no idea. I know that a lot of times like the type, like the saltiness can kind of depend on like the flake and stuff like that, but there's just some salts are saltier than other. There's like the level to it. So if you wanted to do like a side-by-side test of like table salt and you try it, it's like it tends to hit you and it's really, really salty versus trying something like the Diamond Kosher. You try it and it's a lot more mellow versus doing like a flaked crystal or a Himalayan sea salt. And the other thing too to think about is with these things, the structure of the salt crystal melts differently in food. So let's say that you're using pink Himalayan sea salt. That takes longer to melt in terms of cooking than, kosher salt or something like that. Diamond Kosher, you put it in, it melts really quickly. you're putting in a flaky, like a sea salt that's kind of crystallized, you put that in, it actually takes longer to melt into your food. So you could put your salt in there and say it's super coarse, you put it in, you stir it and you taste it, and you're like, it's still not right. And then you add more salt and then you go back 5 minutes later and then it's too salty. And that's because those salt crystals finally disintegrated into it. So just kind of learning the salt that you have in your kitchen and how to work with it is super important. So that being said, my dressing is done and ready. My croutons are done and ready. Our pickled red onions are looking pink and adorable and ready, which means that everything is ready except for the chopping of the rest of our vegetables. So let's talk about what I have. All right. So I have these little bowls because, like I said earlier, I'm kind of doing this as like a food prep exercise for myself, where I'm getting everything ready, but I'm not going to build it all at once. So I'm going to get everything chopped. It's going to go in its own bowls. And that way I can store it that way in my refrigerator. And when I'm ready to make my salad, throw it all together and we're done. So tomatoes are already ready. We saw those. They're looking great. I also have some sweet bell pepper. You can use full-size bell peppers, or those like super itty bitty adorable little ones. Those are also really good. I've got an avocado that's nice and ripe. And so you want it to be where you push it and it has just a slight give to it, but it's still a little bit firm because we want to be able to mix it in that salad, but you don't want it hard because that's like impossible to cut. I have a cucumber. Super exciting news about the cucumber. It came from a farm, first cucumber of the year. So it's a greenhouse grown cucumber from Maine. So I was super, super excited to be able to get this. Where I work at Right Lock Farm, we have this incredible thing called Farm to Go. It's an online farm store where our retail manager works with over 80 different farmers and suppliers and vendors to bring all of this product to our farm store, and then she sells it online. So literally right under my feet in the kitchen, I have a farm to table grocery store. So dream. So my cucumber is from there. And then I also have herbs from the farm. So I love herbs, like love herbs. They are my favorite part of summer is fresh herbs. You put them in everything. It just brightens it and elevates it. So I have lemon verbenum and mint with me today, which are the two that I really, really enjoy in this. Basil would also be great. Or if you like cilantro, you could do cilantro. But herbs are just so uplifting. So I love it. Got my herbs. So what we're going to do is we're going to chop our cucumber really easily. So cutting off those ends. And it's actually kind of similar to how we chop the baguette. I'm going to cut it into 3 because it makes my life easier. Cut those in half. And so the one thing that I think about when I'm prepping my things for a salad, specifically like well, actually really anything, is you think about the bite. What is the bite going to be like, right? So if I'm doing a panzanella salad, I kind of want everything to be about the same size. I want my bread and my cucumber and my pepper to kind of all be similar so that nothing overtakes anything else. And it's a similar bite all the way around. If I'm making a salad at home, I might find myself doing shaved thin red onion and then cubed cucumber and like grated carrot, like different textures and shapes to kind of give it some pizzazz. But for this, we're going to go for about same size. So cut it in half, bite-sized pieces. So excited about cucumber season. Cucumbers are one of my favorite parts of the summer. And I think one of my favorite things about them is the wide variety of cucumber. So going to the grocery store, I really only find like English cucumbers or European and things like that. Persians are really big right now, which are all delicious. But my favorite cucumber is actually called a lemon cucumber. They do grow really well in New England, and they are round and yellow and kind of look a little bit like a lemon. No lemon flavor, but super, super good. The skin has like this really amazing texture. Yeah, it's just my favorite part about summer is just all the variety of different produce that you can find just going to different farms or stores or markets. And I think it's so cool because New England actually has a really great growing season. So hopefully this year we grow well. So my cucumber is all ready. Okay. Now I'm going to do my pepper. So someone once asked me like, how do you cut your pepper? Because it's like, I don't know, I guess pepper cutting is a little bit hard. I do it super easy and I don't try to put too much thought into it. I just cut one side and then I just go all the way around, except this one of course has this little nodule, the stem hanging over, making it difficult. We're just gonna go all the way around, grab that bit. Same thing here. So nothing fancy because I'm just dicing it. Okay. And then what I'll do is I'll just cut it into strips and then cut those into cubes. It's also kind of cool, panzanella salad, like it doesn't have to be all the same shape. Doesn't have to be perfect. It's a peasant dish. So like embrace the easy of it. All right. I also like doing multicolored peppers in this. My favorite pepper are the purple peppers. I don't know what their official name is, but they're these really pretty purple bell peppers. And they kind of like are purpley greeny and they're absolutely beautiful. So they look really good in the salad. This is also a great idea for summer entertaining. So if you guys are if you're even going to a barbecue or doing something like this, the salad's amazing because one, you can kind of do what I'm doing, like prep all the things the day before, store it separately. And then before you even get in the car to head to your barbecue or before people even show up, you can dress your salad because if it sits there for like an hour soaking up that yumminess, that's not a problem. It's also a great salad because you have some leftovers, you can actually eat it the next day, which is like amazing for a dressed salad, right? That's because that bread just soaks up all the yummy. So we have our peppers, we have our cucumber. I'm going to give our herbs a really quick chop. So I already removed the stems and I'm literally just kind of bunching it all together and just giving it a super rough, simple chop. And I'll go the other way. I'm not being super difficult with it because I don't want to bruise my herbs. There we go. Just like that. Super easy. I'm going to put it back in my little container. And the last thing to chop is my avocado. That there. So for an avocado, all I'm going to do is I'm going to put my knife in and I'm just going to literally roll it around that avocado, twist, and open it up. So the seed is like, we'll say it's the scary part, right? So I do it in my hand like this, but if that makes you uncomfortable, you can actually hold it up like this, put your knife right in that seed and then boop, pops right out. I'm going to use my thumb to push that out. There we go. Move this because I don't need it. All right. And then all I'm going to do is I got rid of my compost bucket. I do need it still. So we'll bring it back. I'm just going to peel the skin. There's one. And probably the messiest part of this whole salad. Two, there we go. Give my hands a little light. I go through a lot of dish rags. All right. And now we're just gonna, again, we're gonna dice it. So few that way. No, stay together. Turn it other way. Go, diced avocado. This would be the one thing if I was making it ahead of time, I would hold off on adding this for just a bit, just because you don't want it to turn brown. But you also have all of that acid in your salad dressing, which is going to help the oxidization from happening. All right, so now we have our dressing, our pickled red onions, our croutons, all our veggies are chopped. So I think that means we're ready to assemble our salad. All right. So I'm going to do a single portion. So, or well, probably two, but smaller portion. So I'm going to add my dressing or my sorry, my croutons. And then I'm going to add everything except my herbs and my avocado and my red onion. So we're adding the heartier things. We're adding the tomato, the pepper, and the cucumber. So it's about a half a batch. I'm going to add about half of what I have cut. Get my pepper and my tomatoes. All right. And then give my dressing a quick shake. Just get it all ready. 2, 3. All right. And so with the dressing, you know, like when you normally dress a salad, you're trying not to make it soggy. You kind of want to make this a little bit soggy, not too soggy, but it can handle a lot of dressing because that bread is going to absorb it. Come on, like twisted too tight. All right, there we go. So we're going to add, I think that's good. Use my spoon. Stir it up. Oh, it smells so good. So you guys can see I can kind of like, it's still dripping and dressing. It doesn't matter. If you give it 10 minutes, it's going to absorb all of that yumminess and be good to go. I'm going to add half my herbs. I'm only doing half of it. I'm going to add all my avocado because actually I only chopped 1 avocado. The recipe calls for 2. I love avocado. So we'll do all of it. This is a great salad too. If you wanted to add cheese to it, goat cheese or feta cheese would be a really nice compliment. All right. You guys see what I mean about me classically picking bowls that are too small for what I'm mixing? Like a theme in my life. All right. Then what we're going to do is plate. My bowl. Got my panzanella salad. I have some pea shoots left over from an event I did. I love pea greens, super spring. So I'm just going to throw some pea greens on it. I think it's just going to add a really nice little freshness to it. If you have other microgreens, this is like a great place to throw on microgreens if that's your thing. And then my onion. So super soft. You can see it's really pretty pink. Pile right there. And there you have it. That is how you make panzanella salad to impress all your friends. Looks delicious and fresh. It is. It's like the best part of it. It just screams summer, and today's like a perfect day for that. So yeah, that's it.
That looks amazing. It looks so beautiful too.
I know. And you know what's amazing too is it wasn't difficult. Like we didn't have to, there was very little cooking. The oven is on for like 15 minutes tops, and then you can have dinner.
And it seems like there's a lot you could do ahead of time, like the croutons and the dressing and the onions. So
absolutely. You could even chop all your vegetables the day before if you wanted, or if you were like, oh, you're like me. Mornings are kind of my time. Like I'm really good at getting things done at the morning, and then my day starts and then I'm like, oh my God, it's dinner time.
right. I know.
And so this is something where you could do it the day before, or you could do it in the morning. You could have some nice coffee, cut some vegetables, you know, croutons could be done the day before. And then when you get home from work or wherever you were, you have everything you need to just throw together a really yummy salad. Put some grilled chicken or shrimp on it and you're good to go.
Wow. And I like the idea of adding like some feta cheese or.
Yeah.
Goat
Yeah. This
cheese
is
too.
really good with feta cheese or goat cheese. Like that creamy, sharp cheese goes really well with it.
Does anybody have any other questions? Well, thank you so much. I also posted some links in the chat. You'll also get them in your confirmation email. If you could fill out our online survey, that would be great. And how long does the onion last?
Easily 10 days in the fridge.
Oh, really?
Yep. Yeah, because it's pickled. So you have it super pickled. I mean, just make sure whatever container you're putting it in is obviously very clean. If it's dirty, you don't want to introduce any bacteria. But
Right,
as long as your jar is clean, you're good for 10 days.
yeah,
So I tend to make it, I'll make it like on a, a Friday or a Saturday. And then I kind of have it through that week and the weekend. And I can put it on my breakfast sandwiches or in a salad or just
Oh,
throw
yeah.
it on something for a little pop of brightness.
great. And I just want to remind everybody that this was being recorded so that if it'll be posted on our website, on our YouTube channel, if people want to